they seem to have realized that, in this transition, hybrids is the way to go. 35 to 40 kpl is what I think the target is.
What will the industry say about hybrids? Because we know there's a lot of lobbying going on about trying to get certain concessions for hybrids.
The GST for EVs can only go up.
Why Toyota aren't looking at theirs? And that's surprising.
So clearly, hybrid seems to be the new diesel. Hello and welcome to Deep Drive, our podcast on all things automotive, the latest trends in the industry, the latest developments, and some gossip too. I'm joined by Sergius Barretto for this episode where we're going to be talking about Maruti's secret hybrid strategy. Now, it's been no secret that Maruti has been looking at hybrids, but what no one knew as to what extent they were looking at hybrids and what they were actually developing. What Maruti is planning to do now, they are planning to launch a series hybrid. Now, what is a series hybrid? It's different from the hybrid in the Grand Vitara and also the Toyota Hyryder, which share the same hybrid system. It is essentially a range extender, a very simple form of hybridization. Let's talk a little bit about the technology before we get into the strategy part of it. Series hybrid, really, we would like to call it the AMT of hybrids. Basically, a simple system. Not ideal, not very refined, but does the job and is cheap enough to democratize hybrid technology, just the way AMTs democratize automatics. So, Sergius, you went into all the hybrids. I want you to just talk about what's the difference between these three hybrid systems.
Yeah, so, it's very interesting. Actually, a lot of people get confused. In fact, a lot of auto experts out there also, put out wrong information sometimes inadvertently. But yeah, so if you think about it, people think series and parallel in the layout of the components. It's not the layout, it's the power flow. So series, the engine is a generator. As you said, the engine just generates electricity, supplying it to the battery and the motor, right? So it does not have a mechanical drive connection with the wheels. It will generate electricity at a faster rate when the battery and the motor needs it, but there is no mechanical connection.
Only the motor that's driving the wheel.
Only the motor, 100%, that's a series. Parallel, as the name suggests, parallel, two power flows can happen, engine and the motor. So the engine can drive the wheels, the motor can also drive the wheels. Now in there, you can drive them independently or not independently. For example, Maruti, a very good example, the mild hybrids, they're parallel hybrids. So the engine drives the wheels and the motor also assists.
But very small assist.
Very small assist. So we call it a mild hybrid. So it's a parallel system.
But principally, it's a parallel.
Principally, it's a parallel system. The engine never goes into a charging cycle. The engine can't go into a charging cycle. When that happens with everything else, it's a series parallel hybrid. Because it can do parallel power flow. So so to look at it, in fact, to just sort of put it simply, in a series system, the engine is only a genset powering the battery and the motor. In a parallel system, the engine can't charge the battery. And in a series parallel, it can do everything.
So in a series parallel, just like we have in the Grand Vitara and Toyota Hyryder, it can charge the battery and the wheels can be driven by the engine alone, by the motor alone, and by both.
And by both together, yes. It can do the combination of all. And as you'd imagine, that would be the most expensive one.
The nicest one, but the most expensive one.
Because you need all of the components now for all of that to work, right? I mean, in a series system, as we were discussing, you don't need the whole mechanical drive linkages to the like the gearbox to the wheels. So
you get what you pay.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. In fact, I really like that line, the AMT of hybrids.
Let's talk about why Maruti is going into hybrids, because I think quite clearly, I think the EV kind of craze, it's still there, but globally seems to be going flat. I was talking to Akbar, who was saying that even 2023 Nexon, facelifted Nexons are going at a discount. The last year, they bought a lakh off. The pre-facelift one, Nexon Max, 2.8 lakhs off. So, the one gets the sense that the early adopters are kind of saturated. There's a big gap between what they call the early majority. Of course, pace of growth is still there, but it's off a very, very small base. I think charging infra and all that is becoming a bit of an issue as far as EVs goes. And hybrids, I think Maruti, to me, no one knows their customers better than Maruti. They seem to have realized that, in this transition, hybrids is the way to go.
No, absolutely. I mean, hybrids deliver on efficiency. strong hybrids. We're talking about strong hybrids because we do know Maruti has had this whole
And
mild
spoiled the whole
hybrid.
hybrid name, and in fact, really upset policymakers who from them just don't want to give any stops to hybrids, which we'll talk about later.
True, yeah. It's actually quite funny that the people who, like you correctly said, spoiled the name of hybrids are now back with. In fact, almost interestingly, when this does come about, Maruti will have all three types of hybrids in their portfolio. They'll have the series hybrid, they'll have the parallel hybrid, and they'll have the series parallel hybrid.
Yeah, and then, just looking at hybrids, clearly, I think the transition to EVs is going to be much longer than what we expect. There's no end date in India.
Yes, there's no cutoff like Europe. Yeah.
Right, and just look at the numbers. Today, hybrids, despite just a few models, we just got the Grand Vitara, the High Rider, then the rebadge Invicto, the Innova High Cross, and the City, which is very small. But just out of these four models, they're selling more than all the EVs put together. From Maruti's point of view, 20% of Grand Vitara sales are apparently the hybrid version, despite it being 2.5 lakhs more. So clearly, hybrid seems to be the new diesel. And you get, I think what people don't realize is that once you drive it, you get hooked a little bit like EVs because you've got that partial electric silent running, that smoothness, which in stop-start traffic is fantastic. The efficiency is phenomenal. Everyone who's driving Grand Vitara is getting 20 plus kpm. And I think for the new hybrid with the series hybrid, which Maruti is planning, 35 to 40 kpl is what I think the target is. That's what I hear. And I think that's going to be a game changer.
You're right. I mean, that really is the headliner, 35 or 40 kpl. And it's possible because the engine is not taking the driving load, right? It's not taking on the driving load of the car at all. The mechanical load doesn't come onto that. So it's always operating in its prime rev range, because it's only charging the battery. That's one of the advantages of the series hybrid. It when the engine turns on, it does, of course, increase revs when you need to supply electricity at a faster rate, but it's not like it's taking on the full driving load. That's being done by the motor. So
right, exactly.
So that's
and I think
benefit.
One disadvantage is on the highway. I mean, clearly, it's going to be no fun on the highway, and will definitely not be as efficient on the highway as
in a start-stop,
because as start-stop.
And slow speeds. Essentially, slow speeds is where it excels, really, because it's turning on fewer times, supplying just the right amount of car.
I think that's what the smart thing is. I mean, SUVs are going to be more long distance, out of town. That's where the parallel hybrid will be there, the series parallel. And just for city commuting, range extender, I think it's just good enough. So a pretty smart strategy in that sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the range extender, series hybrid, as we call them, that's perfect for the city. Absolutely. I mean, I think we've both driven the Nissan Note, the only series.
I mean, it's really tragic what's happened to Nissan. I mean, it's such an opportunity to have a first mover advantage. They could have done it with the Leaf. They were to launch the Leaf. Yeah. Nothing has happened. They brought the Note in here as a demo car.
Yeah, which was the series hybrid,
Which was a series hybrid. The Note is a series hybrid. Yeah. That's gone. In fact, we don't know what's happening to Nissan. That's, I think, a topic for another podcast. Yeah. They've totally lost the plot over here. But I think the big advantage Maruti has is the volume and its ability to localize. Because though Nissan wanted to do it, they just didn't have the volumes or the scale. I think just coming to what Maruti is going to do, Maruti Suzuki is going to do, everything is going to be localized on the series hybrid system. From the motors, even the batteries are being localized. In fact, the batteries are being made in a special hybrid battery plant, LTO technology with Toshiba. So that's already being localized. So I think localization is the key, and they're going to have huge volumes, which is going to be able to bring the price to a level that is going to be acceptable by customers. And I think talking to Shashank Srivastava, they expect hybrids to be 25% of their total volumes by 2030. So that is quite a lot of hybrids. So obviously a lot of hybrids coming. Before Sergius, I'm just going to share some of the models that are coming. Yeah. I think we'll just put them up on the screen for everyone to see. But as you can see that, we're starting off with the Fronx. You've got even the Baleno going hybrid and even the Swift going hybrid. And all of them powered by the Z12V engine, which again, we broke that story. That's the new 3-cylinder 1.2 liter engine. And now I realize, or, not realize, but why the power is less. The K12 was 90 horsepower. This is just 82 horsepower. Clearly, they're looking at efficiency. and this motor in hybrid form is just going to be charging a battery. It's not going to be driving the wheels. So I think, again, they've really kind of optimized the whole system over there. And I think now it comes to light why perhaps the power output is a little less. They've traded power for more efficiency, the engine efficiency. So not only will the engine be fuel efficient, but in when it's running on EV mode, the entire combination of efficiency will be phenomenal.
Yeah, so that's my question actually, Hormazd. I mean, if you look at the three types, sure, okay, series has its advantages, parallel has some advantages, series parallel is the ultimate one. We know Maruti has access to series parallel technology with Toyota. Why did they do their own program? I mean, why did they not just,
So I think it's to do with costs. And I'll tell you, share some gossip got from the Tokyo Motor Show in October. Apparently, Toyota tried to kind of make a cheaper hybrid version of the parallel hybrid. They started a program and Suzuki started called S1 Kai, KEI for small. Too expensive. They retried again, optimizing costs and everything, and it was S12 Kai, and they couldn't do it. I think at that point, from what I hear, again, it's not confirmed. Akio Toyoda was really furious that his own guys couldn't make a cheaper system and said, let Suzuki do it. And Suzuki, I think, are doing this. I don't think Toyota's part of their series hybrid program, which is now called HEV. So, but clearly, I think it was a cost issue to meet tough cost targets. Toyota just couldn't do it. In fact, that's the reason why Toyota is partnered with Suzuki for many things. Toyota just cannot do things cost effectively.
Right.
That's why the Etios was a failure. They cut costs where they shouldn't have. And everything below 10 lakhs or small cars is all with Suzuki right now. So that's very clear. They can't kind of have that kind of focus or that nuanced approach to cutting costs the way Suzuki has. And I think, so Suzuki's program is called HEV, their series hybrid program. But what I understand, it's only Suzuki's doing it. Maybe it doesn't meet Toyota's kind of, let's say, requirements for that brand. It's maybe feeling a little too compromised. They don't want to go down that route. But I think clearly for Maruti, it's a huge opportunity. They see this as a way to meet CAFE. Don't forget, Maruti is one of the two manufacturers only meeting CAFE targets right now. Tata Motors, one is with EVs, and Maruti is doing this right now without EVs. And when the EV play comes in, it'll be even stronger, and CAFE targets are going to get tighter. So I think, I'm quite bullish on Maruti actually, because, they really are sorted in their way. Okay, diesel, they botched up completely. I'm going to be doing a podcast on why that happened.
They had multiple hurdles. They stumbled over all of them.
Absolutely. There are technical problems. They keep saying the diesel market's going, but the diesel market was about 20-30%, which is quite large for them. And, they gave it up for because there was some issue. But anyway, we'll come to that later. But again, coming back to that, so I think it's really interesting how Suzuki have been very innovative in, looking at hybrids in a different way. And that's with a range extender, which I think is going to be very exciting when the first cars roll out.
Yeah, and in fact, you're right. So I guess that answers the question of why Toyota aren't looking at theirs. And that's surprising. Maybe they might change their mind once the system comes out. I don't know. Anyone's guess.
I think this is one of the best partnerships that there is. It's one of mutual respect. I think both have gained tremendously from each other. I think it's a great case study of how well a partnership works in India, where partnerships and joint ventures have really, not worked at all. Though it's not a joint venture, it's a proper collaboration, and both are really getting the benefits from it. Maruti with the top-end vehicles and technology, and Toyota with the bottom end. So really works well. Everyone says badge engineering is an issue, but, that's just for people on Twitter to sound like experts. It's really benefited at both. And frankly, the customers don't have an issue with that at all.
Also, and I think it's benefiting the companies, benefiting the dealers.
It's benefiting customers. Finally, they're getting products at a competitive price. So really, I think on hybrids, but I think I want to also say that it's really the timing of Honda to, not focus on hybrid. They started it with the City. They overpriced it. They loaded all the ADAS features on the hybrid version, 4.5 lakhs more. Obviously, it was not going to sell. It's just sad how Honda has really messed up their strategy time and time again. They got into diesels late when diesels were on the way out. Now they're I wouldn't say exiting hybrid, but the Elevate should be having a hybrid version, but they're not doing that. They're going EVs. Yeah. So I think, and it's really sad that Honda have kind of, missed this trend which is emerging. And, it's going to be a multi-pronged race. You're going to have EVs. You have to have EVs. You've got to have all kinds of fuels, CNG, CBG, let's say the regular petrol, diesel is still going to be around. And, of course, hybrids. And I think Maruti is betting big on hybrids. And I think, that's a race that is worth winning.
What's also going to be interesting, Hormazd, I think for me to see and watch is now as this unfolds, Maruti is betting big on hybrids, and what will the industry say about hybrids? Because we know there's a lot of lobbying going on about trying to get certain concessions for hybrids. Yeah. Don't you think there's going to be a lot of fun there now?
Well, absolutely. I think a couple of things have happened. One is the industry most of the players have not even thought of a hybrid. They only have a game plan. I think the Kia MD went on record in an interview to say that they are looking at hybrid.
But I think some of the larger Indian manufacturers who don't have access, of course, to technology, they've written it off. They've said it's...
Absolutely. I think Mahindras have very clearly said that, I think they don't have the resources to put on in every technology, and they've taken, they've gone ahead and placed their bets on EVs. I think, Tata Motors as well, we've heard comments from saying that, EVs are the way to go. They've even said hybrid should not get SOPs, which logically doesn't make sense, because the cleaner the technology, it should get some concession.
Some sliding scale.
Exactly, because, obviously not as much as EVs. And I think the biggest, concern is for the EV guys is that the GST for the EVs can only go up. It's right now at a base 5%. I don't see it coming down to 2%. It can only go up, might go up to 10%. Whereas for hybrids, with the clamor for it, with the logic behind it becoming stronger and stronger, there could be concessions for it. I don't see hybrids going beyond 43%. So I think, given this scenario, I think betting on hybrids is a smart thing. And I think Maruti have really got this one.
So hybrids can only go higher. Hybrids can only go down in price, or at least in terms of the concessions, and EVs could only go higher.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, I think Tata, recently went on record to say that they think that concessions should be given to EVs up to about 20% of the market share.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's
and looking at a long-term support, and obviously trying to hope that it's there. You think it will be around?
Well, I think it will be around. I think, electrification is the way to go, because honestly, long-term, that's the way you meet your net zero targets. You have to be fully electrified. You've got to get the carbon out of the atmosphere, out of what we do. So fossil fuel has to eventually go away, and hybrids use a fossil fuel.
But hybrids is a good route to that.
It is a good route to that, and I think it'll be some time happening. And, in the end, you've got to take the whole well-to-wheel issue. You've got to see where your, let's say, electricity is being produced. As long as we are thermal for predominantly of our energy production or electricity production, I'm not so sure. I've not been a lot of calculations floating around on both sides, but there is a case to say that, hybrids, a very efficient hybrid from a CO2 perspective is not far off from an EV as well. And frankly, it's so much more practical. Charging infrastructure is the biggest issue, I feel. I mean, we've driven all over. It's not just the network, it's just the quality of the chargers. A lot of them don't work. And let's face it, every time we get into one of our long-term EVs, we have always got an eye on that range meter. You have a longer distance to go than I do, but it's always that little planning is there.
Exactly.
So that's where I think hybrids really score, and I think that's how it is. So I think Sergius, let's see how things pan out. It's going to be interesting. I'm really thrilled we broke this story. It's really big news, and I think it's going to be 2025 when the France comes out. But I think hybrids are in the news, are on people's minds. Media talking about it. Customers are enjoying hybrids. And I think, you never know, government might also realize that in this current situation, it's a good way to wean people off, pure ICE and get them going there. So anyway, I think I think we need to wrap up. We've been chatting a lot, but thanks. I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more. But thanks everyone for watching and listening to Deep Drive, and stay tuned for our next podcast.